There are nights when the world is completely still, yet something inside you refuses to rest. The room is dark, the air is quiet. Somewhere outside, a dog barks into the distance before silence returns. The clock on the wall keeps moving, as if nothing has ever happened. Tick, tick, tick. It never hesitates. And yet, for you, 1 second can feel like a lifetime. Have you ever noticed how strange time really is? It carries us away from people we once couldn't imagine living without. It softens memories that once stole our sleep. It turns heartbreak into stories, grief into photographs, and yesterday into something that almost feels like someone else's life. But then there are other memories, the ones that seem to grow roots. The more years pass, the heavier they become. A sentence someone spoke decades ago still echoes in your mind. A goodbye that never felt complete somehow hurts more now than it did then. An empty chair at family gatherings becomes harder to ignore with every passing year. Maybe the greatest mystery about time isn't how quickly it moves. Maybe it's why the same river that washes away one footprint carves another deeper into the stone. So, why does time heal some wounds but deepen others? Imagine it's 2:30 in the morning. You wake up without knowing why. Your phone glows beside the bed, showing notifications from people you barely talk to anymore. You scroll through old pictures almost by accident. There you are, smiling, standing beside someone who now exists only as a name you haven't spoken in months, maybe years. For a moment, the picture feels warmer than the room you're in. You can almost hear the laughter again. Then you lock your phone. The silence feels louder than before. Sometimes, healing doesn't announce itself. It happens so quietly you don't even notice. One day you realize you can hear a song without crying. You pass a familiar street without looking away. You remember someone's face without immediately remembering how they left. It's almost disappointing, because the pain that once felt impossible to survive slowly becomes ordinary, like an old scar you absentmindedly trace with your fingertips. But other wounds don't behave that way. Sometimes you lose a parent while you're still too young to understand what losing really means. At first, everyone tells you that you'll be okay, and maybe you believe them. Children are remarkably good at surviving. But then life keeps unfolding. You graduate, you fall in love, you fail, you succeed, you become someone new. And with every version of yourself you become, you realize there's another version of you they never got to meet. The wound doesn't shrink. Your life simply grows around it, like a tree wrapping itself around an abandoned fence. The tree becomes stronger, but the fence never disappears. Have you ever noticed that sometimes what hurts isn't what happened? It's everything that never got the chance to happen? Maybe we think of time the wrong way. We imagine it as a doctor, patient, wise, always arriving with medicine. But maybe time has never been trying to heal us. Maybe time is more like rain. Rain falls on every garden exactly the same. Yet one seed becomes a forest, another quietly rots beneath the soil. The rain isn't choosing, it simply reveals what was already waiting underneath. Maybe that's what years do. They don't erase our wounds, they uncover what those wounds were connected to. Think about an old notebook hidden in a drawer. Inside are dreams written by a younger version of yourself, places you thought you'd live, people you thought would stay forever, promises you believed life had already made to you. You smile while reading them. Then, unexpectedly, your chest becomes heavy. Not because the dreams failed, but because you suddenly remember the person who wrote them. You miss who you used to be. Sometimes grief isn't only about losing people. Sometimes it's about losing versions of ourselves. The fearless child, the hopeful teenager, the person who believed every goodbye would eventually become another hello. Where did they go? Or perhaps they're still somewhere inside us, quietly waiting to be remembered. I wonder if that's why certain wounds deepen. Not because they're getting worse, but because we keep becoming someone capable of understanding them differently. A child misses their father because bedtime feels quieter. An adult misses their father because they finally understand everything that father carried without saying. The same loss, a completely different pain. Time didn't create that grief. Understanding did. Maybe that's why birthdays sometimes hurt. Why anniversaries arrive carrying invisible weight. Why walking into your childhood home after years away feels like stepping into a conversation that ended long ago but somehow never finished. Every room remembers. The walls remember. The sunlight falling across the kitchen floor remembers. And perhaps, so do we. Have you ever walked past a place you hadn't seen in years and felt your entire body recognize it before your mind did? Memory is strange like that. It doesn't knock. It simply opens the door. Sometimes healing happens because we finally stop fighting the memory. Sometimes suffering grows because we keep asking life for a different ending. And life never answers. Maybe the deepest wounds aren't asking to be healed. Maybe they're asking to be carried. Imagine trying to remove every ring from the trunk of an old tree. You can't. Each ring is proof that another season was survived. The harsh winters, the gentle springs, the years of drought, the years of abundance. Without those rings, the tree wouldn't be itself anymore. Maybe we're no different. We spend years hoping that enough time will make us who we were before the loss, before the betrayal, before the mistake, before the goodbye. But maybe time has never been walking backward. Maybe it has been quietly asking us a different question. Can you become someone who makes room for this? Not someone who forgets, someone who carries. There is a difference. Forgetting asks you to erase. Carrying asks you to continue. Maybe that's why some wounds heal. They belong to moments that have finished teaching us. And maybe others deepen because life keeps returning to them. Every new friendship reminds you of the one you lost. Every child reminds you of the parent who isn't here. Every achievement reminds you of the person you wish could have seen it. The wound grows because your love keeps growing, not because you're broken, because your life refuses to stop expanding. And suddenly, the pain isn't proof that you're trapped in the past. It's proof that something mattered enough to leave fingerprints on every future version of you. Maybe that's the quiet truth we spend years avoiding. Some scars fade because they belong to passing storms. Others remain because they became part of the landscape. Not enemies, landmarks. The clock is still ticking, just as it was in the beginning. It has never slowed down for your happiest day. It has never paused for your hardest one. Outside, morning slowly begins to replace the darkness. Light enters the room without asking permission, the same way time always has. Maybe today you'll remember someone unexpectedly. Maybe you'll smile. Maybe you'll cry. Maybe you'll do both. And perhaps that's the closest thing healing has ever looked like. Not the absence of pain, but the quiet ability to hold joy and sorrow in the same pair of hands. Have you ever noticed that the oldest houses are often the ones filled with the most stories? Their walls aren't beautiful because they remained untouched. They're beautiful because they endured. Maybe we're becoming something like that. Not perfect, not finished, just lived in. If today's reflection stayed with you, remember that these quiet questions often live inside far more people than we realize. The moments that seem impossible to explain, the memories that soften with time, and the ones that somehow grow heavier, are rarely ours alone. Sometimes, simply knowing that can make the silence feel a little less lonely. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is one memory that became more meaningful or more painful the longer time passed, and why do you think it changed? If these are the kinds of questions that stay with you long after the day is over, consider subscribing. This is a place where life's deepest, quietest, and most overlooked questions are explored through cinematic storytelling and honest reflection. The questions many of us carry, but rarely say out loud. Until our paths cross again, may the hours keep moving, and may your heart find its own way of moving with them.